ASU, and none of them have given them anything concrete. And so resorting to this might not be the best of ideas, might not be the best of solution, but again, they are trying to get the attention of the federal government. They are trying to get the attention of ASU and letting them know that, hey, we are still here. We need to go back to school. And for us to go back to school, we also have to put up a fight. As a matter of fact, the National Association of Nigerian Students had also come out to claim that they've tried to have dialogue with the federal government. They've tried to have dialogue with ASU, but all to no avail. It is important that the federal government and ASU basically come to a compromise. Now, the counsel for the federal government, Igwe, proceeded to urge the court to take the applications as it was ripe to be taken, stating that the matter is of national interest and urgent as millions of students have been at home since February 14th. Now, Femi Falana, counsel to ASU, in response, acknowledged receiving process from the claimant and stated that they were already filing their reply in the court registry. Now, Falana added that the Minister of Labor and Employment lacked the power to ask the court in its referral to order the defendant to go back to work. He also informed the court that ASU will be meeting stakeholders in the House of Representatives on September 20th to ensure that the matter is being resolved. Now,
we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all.
It's good to have you back on ATN Express Roundtable. And of course, just like, we are going to be dissecting some more stories tonight. But before we went on that, we talked about the issue of ASO. It has become a national issue, basically, and they're saying that the court has promised to rule on the matter on Wednesday this week. So we're hoping that perhaps the ruling is going to be to the favor of the students. We want the students to go back to school, we want them to go back to classrooms, we want them to continue their educational pursuits and ensure that everything that has to do with academics in the country is properly looked into. Now let's move over to the next conversation this evening, talking about the statement that was made by the police force public relations officer, saying that no Nigerian has the right to confront policemen or retaliate even if the policeman slaps him or her, who is a civilian. Let's just digest this talk a little bit more. No Nigerian has the right to to retaliate if a policeman slaps him or her. Now, so it is basically what some persons might preempt the statement and look at it from various experts. Are you then saying that it is all right that police officers should go about slapping civilians with the hopes that the civilians are not going to fight back? I mean, we've seen situations where, in quote, the Nigerian police are maltreating civilians. Some civilians have lost their lives in the course of this. This might be allegations, but it is something that has been reoccurrent. Saying now that Nigerians do not have the right to fight back, even if they are being slapped by a policeman who is in uniform. I mean, go around Nigeria as a country. There has been harassment, by these police officers to the citizens of the country, Nigeria. And seeing that, the first PRO is saying that Nigerians should not retaliate, Nigerians should not fight back, even if they are being slapped. Okay. Now, the first PRO actually said this during through his Twitter account, and he advised that any such victim of police brutality, instead of retaliating, should rather file a complaint with the law enforcement agency. Now, of course, he was basically reacting to a viral video that actually went, online. That video showed a man dragging a rifle with a police officer. Now, before we even talk about this more, let's get to see that particular video and see. Let's just watch that video together, just a few seconds, and then we come back. Perhaps after the break, we are going to watch that video together. Don't go away, of course, you're watching ATN Express Roundtable. Welcome back. Of course, you're still watching ATN's Press Roundtable. Now, before we called on that break, we wanted to basically show you the video that went viral that actually showed a civilian having a struggle with a police officer or some police officers. The young man was seen dragging a rifle with these police officers. Now let's go on and watch that video and see exactly what transpired. Just a few seconds, and then we'll come back and continue the conversation over here.
You know who we are. Why the phone? What do you phone now? What do you phone? Oh my God!
Truthfully, it is very risky for any civilian to actually do this. It's very, very risky for any civilian to do this. So I think that what the PRO has said, the advice he has given, could be a good one, saying that instead of you to indulge in a fight with the police officers, it is better you file a complaint against the law enforcement officers. But again, how many times have complaints been filed and it is being taken up properly? How many times? These are questions we still ask ourselves and get to find out exactly how many times can a complaint be filed and then it is taken up properly. Seeing that almost on a daily basis as well, Nigerians, innocent Nigerians, are harassed by police officers. Yes, as well, we could say that the video we saw right now might not be a complete video. It could be maybe one side there, but that is the best we could get out for tonight. Seeing that this particular individual was seen dragging a rifle with a police officer, and of course, if you also heard the audio, the young man was also heard shouting, "Give me my phone." So that is to also say that perhaps we can preempt, we might also assume right now that the police officers took the phone of the civilian, and he was basically fighting for the return of his phone. But check out what he did there. Like I said, this was really, really risky to see an ordinary civilian dragging a rifle with the police officer. What if the trigger was pulled? What would have happened to that civilian? And so yes, it is important, yeah, in as much as you also want to stand and fight for your rights, but do that also from the place of perhaps wisdom. We understand the place of bravery, we understand the place of courage. But hey, if that trigger would have been pulled, death perhaps may have occurred, or an injury would have just happened. So please be careful. Whenever you're trying to fight police officers, whenever you're trying to defend yourself or defend yourself, be careful out there. And maybe you need to follow the advice of the police PRO. All right, now, just like we saw there, the young man basically was in a heated argument, and yes, just like I said, it was a suspicious molestation over his phone. Now, Adejobi further stated that if a police officer, right, now if a police officer basically holds your phone, if a police officer takes your phone and holds it, basically, you have to, instead of fighting him, you've got file a complaint with the, you've got to file a complaint rather to the law enforcement agency. Now he said, he says, and I quote him now, that if a person assaults a police personnel in uniform, it would be seen as an act of disrespect to Nigeria. However, now this is the part that we're going to take, because now we have the human rights lawyer, Mr. Femi Falana, who is the senior advocate of the country in Nigeria. Now he has given the police force, public relations officer, CSP Olumuya Adejobi, 24 hours to withdraw the statement that he made that no Nigerian has the right to confront policemen over, or rather retaliate, even if the policeman slaps him or her. Also, speaking through his Twitter account, the first PRO had advised, just like we mentioned earlier, that any such victim of police brutality to rather file a complaint with the law enforcement agency. Now, in a statement titled, "Assaulting a Civilian by a Police Officer Attracts 25 Years Imprisonment," Falana last night stated that if the statement is not withdrawn within the next 24 hours, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Akali Baba, should not hesitate to replace Mr. Adejobi with another police officer who has unqualified respect for the fundamental rights of the Nigerian people. Now, according to Falana, why civilians are required to respect the police officers who are discharging their lawful duties. Section 34 of the Nigerian Constitution states that every citizen is entitled to the fundamental right to the dignity of their person, arguing that the penalty for assaulting a civilian is 25 years under the Anti-Torture Act of 2017. Now, if this law basically stands, question exactly is, why haven't we really heard that some of these police officers who are unlawfully torturing civilians are actually facing the wrath of the law? Why haven't we really heard all of these things? Now, why exactly haven't I heard of some of these things? Now, imagine saying that if a policeman on uniform slaps a civilian, the civilian has no right to retaliate. Now, more so, now if he's on uniform, is an act of disrespect to Nigeria to beat an officer on uniform. The disrespect is not to the policeman. This is basically the PRO speaking. Now, he's saying that the disrespect is not to the policeman, but to our nation, and is a crime to as enshrined in our criminal laws by virtue of Section 34 of the Nigerian Constitution. Every citizen is entitled to the fundamental right to the dignity of their person. Accordingly, no citizen shall be subjected to any mental, physical, or psychological torture. Now, both the Administrators of Criminal Justice Act 2015 and Police Establishment Act 2020 have basically prohibited all of this. Now, we're saying again, yes, in as much as we do not subscribe to the fact or even advise that Nigerians should get into a banter or into a fight with the Nigerian police, it is also important that the Nigerian police force should also check itself and ensure that some of these officers that are doing things that are not supposed to be done. I mean, you can see someone on the road, take his items, and for no reason, you do not have a clearance to even search this person. You do not have a clearance. You don't have a reason. There's no suspicion. There's no intelligence on this particular person. Now, you just see the person. Perhaps the person is looking a certain way, and then you make a conclusion that this person is this or that. This or that in this context could be that perhaps you are suspecting that this person is a criminal. And so based on your suspicion, without any fact, without any investigation, you went ahead and seized the person's property, maybe his phone, which has been more like some of the things that happens these days without even thinking. I mean, how would you see someone and the first thing you think of doing is seizing his phone? Yes, we know that there are perhaps internet fraudsters that are also in the street, but before you could seize someone's phone without suspicion, then you have to ensure that you have done your investigations properly before seizing an individual's phone. These things are common knowledge. Yes, a wise man once said that maybe common sense is really not common after all. But this is supposed to be common sense. You know, this as well should be looked into. The Nigerian police force should do things rightly, should do things properly. I mean, you cannot expect that you keep doing things that you think is right, and then you expect that citizens are not going to retaliate. I mean, people are going to retaliate. I mean, you are infringing on their fundamental human rights. And so people are prone to retaliating without fear or favor. So yes, in as much as we're not subscribing to the fact that citizens should fight police officers, of course, if you saw that video, you got to find out that truly it was risky for the civilian to have done that. I mean, there were two police officers that were holding guns. I don't know if those guns were loaded, but if they were loaded and the trigger was pulled, like I said earlier on, perhaps someone may have died that day. So it's important that we ensure that the right things are done. I mean, police officers do the right thing. Citizens in turn would respect the police officers, and everything basically is going to be done properly. All right, so that being said, we're going to go for another break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the issue of the kidnap kingpin Evans, who finally has been jailed to 25 years in prison for kidnapping. Of course, you know the story. It's been here for some time. It's been on our airways for quite a long time. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about this. Finally, justice has been served. We're going to start off from the conversation where we found out that the kidnap kingpin Evans and his accomplice has been jailed for 21 years for kidnapping. Don't go away, of course, you're watching ATN's Press Roundtable.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates.
Welcome back. Of course, you're still watching ATN's Press Roundtable. Now, let's go over to the last lap of the conversation tonight, where we got to find out that an Ikeja Special Offences Court had sentenced the convicted kidnap kingpin, Chukwu Di Meme Owamadike, alias Evans, and his accomplice, Victor Aduba, to 21 years imprisonment to life imprisonment for kidnapping a businessman, Silvanus Ahamonu, and collecting 420,000 US dollars as ransom from his family. Now, Justice Hakim Oshodi handed out the sentence to the trio on Friday after convicting them on 2 counts of conspiracy and kidnapping of a businessman, Donatus Duro. Now, the case of Evans has been on our airway for quite some time, and some Nigerians had even given that perhaps the Nigerian justice system might fail us again. Seeing that this particular case by Evans was very much heated as at when it broke out, and lots of things happened within that particular season. There were lots of discovery. I find out that this particular man was really a kidnap kingpin. Lots of persons were lost their lives as regards of his activities that he carries out there. And now it's safe to say that finally justice has been served, and this man, who was a perpetrator of a heinous crime, has finally been given justice. And to that effect, we want to commend the Nigerian justice system for handing justice to someone who has been convicted to being a criminal and being a kidnapper. And this is a good news, basically. Yes, it is a good news, and we're hoping that the Nigerian justice system is going to continue in this light. The Nigerian police force as well is going to continue in this light to ensure that those who are being found guilty are handed over the right punishment, the right punishment, and they are going to serve for carrying out some of the crimes and those irregularities that affect the nation and paints the country in a bad light. And on that note, this is where we're going to draw the curtain tonight on ATN's Press Roundtable. Thank you so much for staying tuned, and thank you really for being on the show tonight. I believe it's been a wonderful conversation with you and I. And of course, let's move over to our social media platforms and continue the conversation over there. You could bring in your thoughts, your reaction as well as regards all of the issues that we've talked about tonight. So on Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. I am Victor Arke. Do have yourself a lovely evening.
happenings around the globe. Stay focused on The Fact Today, only on ATN.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what they blow.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.